Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. You are on the sidelines with the sideline guys. And as you can see, we got a packed NFL edition for all of you folks that we can't wait to get to you. Of course, we got our guy, Derrick Myers. You're familiar with him. He's all right, but today we got our guy, OTS General, right? Someone that I needed to fill the shoes of, and God damn it, I hope I'm doing a good job. My guy, Jonathan Tirado. How's it
What's
going?
up? What's up, fellas? You filled the shoes, man. You're doing better than that, actually. So, thanks for having me on your show. And I miss it. I miss you guys. Sideline Guys was our babies, the first episode we ever did. So, just to see it continue to grow and go, and y'all doing your thing, and I'm just happy to be a part of the little thing I'm doing now. So,
Yes,
what's up?
sir.
I miss you guys. I missed you guys.
Yes, you
I
do.
missed this. I missed this.
And hey, while we got you, let's make sure you guys continue to grow by looking at all of my guys Jonathan's content when he tweets at you. So, Jonathan, why don't you let the people know where they can find you on socials?
Still under the underscore OTS. I just try to disassociate because I talk some crazy shit on there sometimes. But no, it's everything's John underscore OTS. All social media platforms. Obviously, I always say point towards the on the sidelines. The OTS Media Co. Right, like anything that's associated with the company, go there. I'm kind of behind the scenes helping push that stuff along too, right? So just support the brand, support my boy Derrick, support my man Mr. Negron over here, and we keep going, man.
Yes, sir. Speaking of, Derrick, tell the people where they can find you.
Yes, sir. You can follow me at Derrick underscore OTS. That's DERRICK. Black way to spell it.
You heard the
Sir.
man. Make sure you're following me on Twitter and TikTok at Negron MMA and on Instagram at Chris Negron underscore. But like the man said, make sure you're following the brand at OTS Media Co. on all social media platforms, OTS Media on YouTube, so you never miss all of the phenomenal shows we got coming your way. Now that we've gotten all the pleasantries out the way, right? We're warm. We're ready to fucking rock. It's only right we start off with some headlines in this wild NFL world right before the Super Bowl, right? There's still a lot of things going on. Our first, the Browns stained their pants with Myles Garrett's trade request. So I got to ask you, coming in hot, John, right off the top.
Oh my God! Right away.
Where do we see Myles Garrett ending up, if anywhere?
Buffalo. Right over here up the street from me. You know what I mean? I'll let you stay tonight, Myles. Come on over. He's got it. So here's the thing. Like, obviously, we know that the Browns have been just a shit show, to say the least, for years, right?
Yeah.
The quarterback controversies, giving Deshaun Watson the guaranteed contract when they probably shouldn't have, based off optics, right? Quarterback play, you can argue, still probably not, right? I think there's other quarterbacks that deserved over him. Garrett's been through it, right? 8 years in the league, not almost going on 9, I think now too, right? Like, he's ready to win. I mean, the guy has 102 sacks in 7-8 years. Like, he's done everything he could. He's already a Hall of Famer. He's ready to win, and I think he can go to. I mean, look. Here's the thing. I think he should go to Buffalo because we need him, right? Like, I'm sure you guys you did talk about the end of season when the Bills obviously lost in the AFC Championship again, but the GM of the Bills, right, Brandon Beane, he said we have a Josh Allen on offense, we need a Josh Allen on defense, right? And if they really believe that, then you go and get them. Like, there's no excuses. You use your draft capital. But where do I think he's gonna go though? He's gonna go to Howie Roseman because Howie's he's a money launderer. He's like the Dodgers of the NFL, and somehow gets another star every year. And it's between us and the Eagles is my guess. But I personally at the Bills, we have the need. Hopefully it's a fit. I think we're gonna get rid of Von Miller, right? So we'll have the money. So we'll see where he goes. I just think he does need to go. He's done enough for that franchise. And what the report came out that Denzel Ward said, if he goes, I go. So like they're gonna lose everybody, right? So
Yeah.
But yeah, I think those are the two top ones. I think even the Commanders are a low key spot, right? The Commanders, they made a good move this past season, just getting to the conference championship. They were never beating the Eagles, like we all know that, right? But you get a Myles Garrett and maybe makes a difference. You know what I mean? So those three are probably my top options, and I just think Howie's going to come in and do his voodoo magic and get them. I'm tired of Howie. Like, I love the Eagles. Like, Derrick knows I love the Eagles. Like, they're my NFC team, right? I love the Lions just because they were fun, but like You guys always get someone. It's annoying. Always.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I love
that's
that
yeah,
last shout
yeah.
too of Washington because that was the first team I thought
Yeah.
of. I think they also have some guys that they could float around a little easier, and hey, they might have a more interesting idea of what to do with those draft picks. But like you said, it's weird because there's a lot of pass rushers on the market right now, right? It isn't just Myles Garrett. We got guys like Max Crosby and other wild cards too, right? They got certain Jonathan Jones brother that's trying to talk about doing a little comeback too, right? So
Woo.
there's just so many players that are up in the air in
Uh,
that way. A lot of dominoes that need to fall. I think though, if I'm putting my eggs in one basket, God damn it, I'm throwing my Ravens in the fucking hut too, right? I need some love on that side of the ball. Shout out Kyle Van Noy, but we need some more pass rushing goodness. But we could all wish, obviously, we're all throwing our teams in there. But if there's one team I thought that was realistic, it was the Commanders. Derrick, what you thinking on where Myles Garrett ends up?
Oh man, honestly, I think we have a wish of where he's gonna go. What makes the most sense for Cleveland?
Yeah.
That's how it has to be viewed, right? Like,
Right.
what will they actually do? I think they're not going to trade him.
Yeah.
I
That's
think they're
possible.
going to do what's best for Cleveland, and they're going to keep because he's got 2 more years in his contract. It's not like they have to get rid of him, right?
Right.
And I think the only way that he would be close to being able to force their hand is by doing a holdout. So I think this thing could actually get ugly before it ends. And I'm going to predict going into the next season, he's still on their payroll.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see it. Listen, the Brown. I don't know what to even believe with the Browns half the time. Like they are
Yeah.
dysfunctional as dysfunctional goes, right? Like Raiders, Browns, they kind of
Yeah.
fight for who's worse, right?
But
Now,
that was
do I think
horrible.
not trading Garrett is probably the smart decision for the franchise? So, but so you always got to think the opposite with them because they're not a smart franchise. So it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's so I mean, like yeah, I think that's feasible and that's smart. The GM basically said it would never happen, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, picks and money talk, right? Like if the Commanders come in and say we'll give you a decent pick,
So
I
that's the
mean,
thing too. What's the value? And if you don't have to rush on the decision,
right,
I think that's where you're going to start seeing it. I'm not coming to. I'm not coming to training camp. I'm holding out,
right,
holding out, holding
right.
out. And I think at the end of the day, he has more leverage than, let's say, like a Hassan Reddick did. Like
Oh
Hassan
yeah,
Reddick was trying to force their hand, couldn't do it. Like
right,
that wasn't happening.
right.
I would love to see him in Philly for sure. I think there's a lot of things that we could actually do. I think Josh Sweat might be someone that we could trade in that.
Yeah.
Um, I think, of course, draft capital. But I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. Like,
You don't necessarily need them. Like you guys are in
no,
the Super
no,
Bowl.
no, no.
I mean, like
Put
you know.
it like this: I want him.
Oh, who doesn't?
I want him because
Yeah.
Brandon Graham is leaving. Like he's retiring. This is it, right?
Yeah,
So that would help with moves on the line anyway.
yeah, for sure.
They already have the depth though, so it's not like it's an absolute necessity.
Right.
What I would not mind, look, I'll put it like this: it's between two players that I'm dreaming about. It's Myles Garrett and Max Crosby.
Oh, same.
Those
Same
are
for us.
two that I'm looking at that I think is very possible. It's a move that Howie would definitely make. He's just focused on the Super Bowl right now.
Right.
Once things are done next week,
Mhm.
I think it's very possible we could start seeing that bidding war.
And if I'm any of those two teams and I'm doing any biddings with the Eagles, I'm like, hey, I'm gonna need a white boy back. All right, I'm gonna need something for the people. You know what I'm saying? But all jokes aside, though, we could all opine for our own teams. We all want them for us,
Right,
right?
Yes.
right.
But I agree. I think it's really going to come down to whoever could come up with the best package if they end up trading them at all.
Yeah.
Only time will tell. I would say though, I hope he gets out of there for his own sake because
For
he's
sure.
done dealt with enough already. God
I
damn it.
mean,
And then as far as moving ahead, we've got our next headline. This one a little bit on the sadder side, right? Rest in peace to Virginia Hallis McCaskey, one of the few majority owners of the NFL who is a woman, right? Rest in peace to her and her family. From what I understand, the team is going to stay in the family the way it did as she
Beautiful.
inherited, right? When her father, George Hallis, passed away. So I say all this to say, congratulations. Derrick made this point to me before the show on having a full, long life, right? Passing away at 102. She got to
Oh,
see
yeah.
at least the heyday of what this team was, and obviously a little bit tougher years now. But rest in peace to her, and obviously thinking about the family and everything they deal with in this. But as far as this team goes, I would say, honestly, looking at the Chicago Bears, I think that their best days are ahead of them. But this is another organization that feels like they can't stop themselves from tripping on their feet. While we're on the subject, it's only right. How do you guys feel about the future of the Chicago Bears with Ben Johnson as the head coach?
This man, I feel like he's gonna do a lot of crazy shit, right? Like the play call, I love it. Don't get me. Okay. So I don't know if any of you played me in Madden before, but Derrick might have played me in Madden like way back. I am a wild ass dude in Madden. Like I do some crazy dumb shit, and Ben Johnson does it in real life. Like that's so like it's gonna be fun. Caleb Williams is gonna have the hell of a time. I mean, so I think the Bears they've never been afraid to hand out money, right? They do sign free agents. Like they took Tremaine Edmonds from the Bills. They always bring in a defensive end here and there and make trades, right? So they always kind of try to put the pieces together, just never has someone to do it. And always had I think the wrong hires. Like Matt Nagy back in the day was a horrible hire, I think, right? You can't just assume because he's under Andy Reid, he's going to be Andy Reid, right? But I think Ben Johnson for me, it's the whole and this is with any coach that's hired, right? Your goal as head coach is to be the leader of everything, right? As you know with Sirianni, as I know with McDermott, although McDermott's never crossed that threshold where he needs to get with the Super Bowl, he took what was with the Bills, a team that was expected to be 5-11, right, or 5-12 for by most, not me, of course, right? I don't know if Ben Johnson's that. I don't. He's never been in that spot before. That's how it is with the coordinators, right? I think he's a phenomenal offensive mind. He's going to help Caleb Williams develop. He made Jared Goff look like an MVP candidate, right? So your job is to make your number one quarterback better, and then usually when a quarterback's good, your team's good, right? So that's to see where he goes with that. But the future of the team, I mean, as long as they follow suit, they've never been afraid to spend money, never been afraid to invest in the right players. Just got to hope Ben Johnson can put it all together and hire the right staff. So we'll see if they get there, but. Kudos to her. I mean, she beautiful, like you said, Chris. Beautiful life, 102. Saw the heydays of the old '80s Bears, and even some fun Super Bowl runs right early in the 2000s. So, rest in peace and best of luck to him. But Derrick's not afraid of him, I'm sure, for the next 20 years. So it's just the Eagles they're just like annoying. I hate love them. Like the Celtics I just have to hate because I'm a Knicks fan, right? But I hate love the Eagles. But yeah, I mean the Bears have a future, right? It's you have the quarterback. They haven't had one in a very long time. We know this.
Yeah.
And I just got to say, I'm so glad that we're all on the same page on this, right? Because there's so many pundits that are out here just like, hey, Caleb Williams is not what they need him to be. And like, let's be fucking real here. This line needs to get fixed, and then you'll be able to see. But given what the hell he dealt with, right? Dealing with 60 plus sacks and all those things, the guy puts the plays on tape, goddamn it. You see the talent, and it's just going to be a matter of that development. Derrick, how you projecting this team, right? I know we talked a little bit about this move, but how you projecting the Bears moving forward?
I mean, I gotta wait till I see what they do with that line. Like Saquon Barkley actually came out this week and said that he almost signed with them.
Wow.
So he almost signed with them, but they went and signed DeAndre Swift.
Oof.
That must have been a backup. Oh, wait, no, they signed him first. Was that why? God damn.
Like he was close to being.
I mean, so say thank you, Derrick.
I know.
It started with thank you.
Love it. I love it. When that's something that comes out this week, that just tells me that there's more darker days ahead. Like, not to give me, don't get me wrong, Swift is a great running back. I love him.
Right.
But I mean, if you had the opportunity to sign Barkley, that
But you could argue Swift fits their timeline better, right? You could argue that, given
You
he's the
could if
younger
you want.
guy.
Yeah, you could if you want. I just seeing what Barkley did without a line, adding him to the Bears
Makes a difference.
would have made a huge difference. Not just in the run game, but Caleb would have been better
Yeah.
statistically.
I mean, you make an argument that Caleb has, which CJ Stroud annoys me with this whole big brother thing, and then ended up playing horrible the rest of the year. But anyway,
Yeah,
that's a whole other story. I could do a whole segment on that just alone.
yeah,
CJ Stroud, boy, you better not be on one podcast all summer. That's all I'm gonna say. But for me, like Saquon going there would have been similar to CJ Stroud's rookie year, right? I think he
yeah.
would have been productive, and maybe they're not going to make the playoffs, but Caleb looks way better than what he looked like
Right,
because
right,
they're all
right,
kind
right.
of zoning in on Saquon, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah. But that
I
was
agree
saying
with that.
like that alone, that move alone, I think could have helped a couple of factors on that offense.
Right,
Defense was cool, but
right.
if just that move alone, it's like looking into alternate universes and seeing what the alternate timeline is like that would have been wild just to
Oh yeah,
see where the Bears would have been and where the Eagles would have been. Like,
yep.
thank God.
Take the Bears.
Yep,
And hey, I
yep,
gotta say
yep.
though, if there's any year where you're gonna shore up the line, you could argue this is the year in the draft, right?
This is it.
This is the deepest class in a lot of different
On
positions, right?
both
But
lines.
especially on both
Yes.
lines. So they got a lot to look forward to there. But once again, right? It's just there's so much things that needs to go right. They've been in
Yeah.
such a bad spot. Funny enough, I thought they would be much better than they were last season. So they have obviously a lot of things to figure out.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think they got enough pieces that you can really be excited for, especially with guys
Oh, yeah.
like Roma Dunze that hasn't really shown his best yet, that are
Mhm.
going to continue to develop for that squad. So the Bears will be a problem probably in like 4 years, but hey, we'll have time to adjust. Uh, Next up, we've got our side note from Kelly Stafford herself. This is Matt Stafford's wife, of course, has the cup runneth over in LA. The quote is as follows: my husband wants to win. He's not trying to put a team in a bad situation. I will say the trading away of Cooper, I guess I'm confused because we were one play away from going to the NFC Championship. And I think if we go, we end up winning. I have to be the dog in the situation, being like, I want to respect for him. I want the respect for him that he deserves. Yes, I love the city of LA. But with that being said, I love an adventure. Now, obviously, this is just tipping
Oof.
your hands right into the mind of the household here, ladies and gentlemen.
Lord have
But the
mercy.
big story here is the potential shopping of Cooper Kupp. Now, we could talk about the fits, but let's talk about this conversation first. What do you think? Can the Rams survive without Matt Stafford with the way this team is constructed now?
I mean, I think at some point they have to do the rebuild, right? I mean, they kind of did, and they built a solid team. Obviously, they had some injuries. Cup was out, Nakua was out, which just seems to be a common thing for Nakua. Like beginning of the year, just be out, to come
Mhm.
back and then dominate for 150 yards against the Bills for some reason. But whatever. So, but I don't know. Like I think. She kind of makes sense, right? Like I think Stafford's at the point in his career where he's won, yes, but all he wants to do now is just keep winning. He's going to make money regardless. He'll make money anywhere he goes, right? I think he's still a productive quarterback. He's been through a lot, obviously, back with the Lions days, and he's done enough for that franchise to deserve better. I mean, why not just work out a deal with Cooper, like or with Cup, right? Like I don't. You can do extensions and make the cap hit smaller this year, and then find a way to release him later when he's older, older than what he is. And that combo is disgusting. I mean, I don't know if I'm sure everybody watched that very high scoring game against the Bills, right?
Mm.
Cup and Nakua combined for like 350 yards and 3 touchdowns. Like they're phenomenal still. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously Nakua is being young, but like Cooper still too. Uh, I, Giving up on that is crazy. And she has a good point. The defense is young, right? And I think they're going to get better. And do I think they can, take down the Eagles? I think they could have taken down the Commanders in any other year, right? But like don't give up on that core. Like they finally rebuilt the defense post Aaron Donald, right? Didn't even
Right.
take long to do it. So I'm with her. I mean, if they want to rebuild, then they got to let them go. That's my opinion.
Yeah. That's a
Yep.
great shout. And whenever I was thinking about it too, like when the story first came out that they wanted to trade him, yeah, that makes sense, right? Whenever you deal with lower extremity injuries to this level, right? It's multiple, it's
Right.
hamstrings on both sides,
Yep.
calves. You got a lot of issues, right? But like you said, he's a productive player still at this stage of his career, and there's a lot of guys that are much older than him that are still out there doing it at this
Oh, yeah.
position. So it's weird. You got a lot to look forward to, but at the same time, I do think that he is someone that will still garnish enough back that making a trade like this wouldn't necessarily hurt you. They've shown that they're able to find gems in the draft, but then let's just call it what it is, right? You're rolling dice. Unless you're going to get a 1-for-1 trade with somebody like maybe, I don't know, DK Metcalf or something like that to try to change the trajectory of what you're looking for in that position, that maybe it makes more sense. But if you're doing it for just picks, you put yourself in a tough spot when you want to be all in. Let's face it. I think they gave the Eagles the hardest game of this run. And I think there's something to be said about that. Obviously, Brandon Fisk and Jared Verse, two absolute beasts. And I knew they were going to be a problem when you got two college teammates going in onto the same team at the next level. Really great chemistry there. And obviously, Verse looks like a real player to be defensive player of the year at some point. So they got a lot to look forward to in LA. But yeah, if this does fall apart, it will be forcing them to hit that reset button. But honestly, I thought that's what this season was going to be, right? So the fact that they made it this far really makes you question things. I really wonder too, like, what's the plan, right? You drafted Stetson Bennett a couple years ago. Is that going to be the guy, or are you going to be immediately searching for someone else?
For the next one.
Yeah. There's a lot of questions, right? A lot of things need to be answered.
And
but I think Cooper Kupp does get traded though.
No, and maybe it does, and I think you make a good point too. So, like, obviously, the consistent injuries. Actually, so Derrick and I a few years back on this podcast had a physical. Remember Kyle Trimble, the physical therapist that covers the Bills, right? And the Carson Wentz time, and we talked about injury prone compared to bad luck with injuries, right? So injury prone, bad luck with injuries. Injury prone is exactly what you're talking about with Cooper Kupp, right? He's hamstrings, thighs, like muscle injuries that are consistent that physical therapists will tell you, yeah, he's falling apart, rather than Wentz's weird injuries of knees, and that you can't control that. You get smacked in the knee, you can't control that. So maybe this is the time that they kind of revamp, and this is what they thought about them before, right? So like as they broke the core down on defense, as they broke the core down in general, they still rebuilt with young guys. They found the Nakua in the 5th round when they only had 3 picks that draft, right? And they found a superstar. So maybe this is the time to say, let's get another pick and find another guy, right? I mean, McVay's a mastermind, right? We all know this. He can make anybody look at least semi-productive. So, maybe it's time to do it. And I think I agree with you, Chris. I think they're going to move on and see what picks they can get. But again, I could probably see him going to the Eagles. Like, I don't want it to happen, I guess, now, because now that I think about it, I always think it's like, it's almost like the devil and the angel on the shoulder, right? It's just Howie Roseman on both sides.
Yeah.
He's just there. I'm gonna get him. Don't even think about it. He ain't going there.
Yeah. And I love that everyone we talk about potentially getting traded to, it's immediately to our teams, because I'm like, yeah, he could come to the Ravens too. That'll be great.
So that's interesting because and you guys, so not to go off too much off topic, but it's kind of topic, right?
Yeah.
You guys, I think more than pass rush, need that solid receiver that's going to be consistent and on the field a lot. Obviously, we're talking about Cooper's injuries and whatnot, right? But you get Cooper as like that 3rd-ish, 2-ish option. Obviously, with Zay coming back healthy and whatnot, that's nasty. Like that Cooper's exactly what you guys need. You don't have that like intermediate, 10 to 12 guy like Anquan Bolden from back in the day, right? Like he was going to get you that first down no matter what. Yep. That's Cooper. Like you guys had that against the Bills in the playoffs, we probably lose. I'll be honest with you. You know what I mean? Obviously, Zay Jones didn't play, so let's give a little bit of credit there. But Cooper might be the move for you guys.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That big body, like you said, to get those in between throws. I love Rashad Bateman, though. I think a lot of people sleep on how good
I think he's very, very good. But he's
a space player. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's up and down that field, and it's hard to stay on him. So I don't know, man. I think ultimately, if he's gonna end up anywhere, I think it's gonna be a team that is in contention, right? He's not gonna be going to a rebuilding team. So Derrick, you got any thoughts on where he could end up?
Yeah, so I think all 3 of our teams are the top targets for sure. For any free agent.
By the way, we are not a biased group here,
no,
right? This is just logical.
It makes no sense. That's the thing. Our teams are the ones that are properly constructed to make moves like that.
You talk about him wanting to go there is number one, right? Like he's going to want to go to contender. But also, like, does it make sense? Do they need it? Like,
Right.
Ravens need it. Eagles obviously could use it. Why not? Right? Bills could use. I want as many receivers as we can get. So it's logical for sure.
Dark horse though. I would say Houston is a very good option. You see,
I agree.
Tank
Stefan's
Dell.
gone. Yeah.
Yes, that's if depending on when Diggs is able to come back, I think that might be something you're looking at. But I'm not expecting Diggs to have a huge season next year.
Well, Diggs is free agent. He's going into free agency now.
Oh, he's
He restructured to the 1-year deal.
oh, that's right.
We had him for 4 years, and that's why we took that cap hit this year, right? But when they took him, they restructured. He's going to Dallas. I mean, he wants to play with his brother, right? So that's
Man,
happening.
that's a dumb move.
You know,
It's a dumb move. I like.
hey, but Dak will give him his stats. So that's all the Stefan likes to care about.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that's the problem. That's the problem. But I mean, if Lamb is still going to be there, I don't know that team is just the whole dumpster fire, so it doesn't even matter to me.
yeah,
But that would be interesting. I think our teams would make them a lot of sense. I think Houston would make a lot of sense.
I think that's true.
I also believe the Rams make the most sense because,
Stay there.
like, if you have this duo receiver core, this receiving duo right here, with Kupp and Nakua, I think it makes the most sense to get the most out of that. Like, for this season to be a rebuild season, and they were a play away from the NFC Championship. I think that's amazing. That's amazing. Like, well, not a play. I'm sorry, they weren't a play away. They were. That was being too nice. They could have.
We're in it.
A
They were
drive
in it.
away. How about
They were
that?
in it for the first half, and then we kind of already saw that was going.
Saquon was Saquon, right?
Yeah. So they were a game away from the NFC Championship. Let's just put it like that.
Yeah.
But they were in the mix, and I think going from what they had to moving on, I wouldn't do that. I like it, I think certain teams. We see this with fantasy, like you see this in fantasy football and basketball all the time, where there are certain general managers that just tweak too much.
Hmm.
They don't know when to just stop. I love trading, right? I love trading, but I'm not going to make a move just because it's making a move. It has to make sense to make that
Yeah.
move.
I agree.
And moving on from Cooper Kupp does not make sense.
No.
Unless you're talking about being able to get someone that you feel is going to stay on the field longer and around the same age to pair with Nakua. Unless you're looking at someone in that caliber, what's the purpose of moving on from Kupp right now?
Oh yeah.
What's the purpose? Restructure the contract, figure out a way to get it done, and keep what you have there, because what they have right now is phenomenal. I agree. Verse is, I'm telling you right now, if they go into I'm hoping they go into a rebuild. You know why I hope they go into a rebuild? Because in 4 years, we can put ourselves in a position to go get Verse and it come to Philly.
Oh my god.
I wasn't even joking. Howie, he's right here.
Like, I love the guy. I love the guy.
He's phenomenal.
And the fact that he backed up what he was saying, that to me is just,
yeah.
I love it.
That man.
I love it.
To me, it's so interesting that we have all these young defensive players that because we really grew up in this era of like the Garrett era, right, and Donald era, and Chris Jones, but we got like Jared Verse, we have Jalen Carter, like dope, good players that are like
Young.
It's dope to see the new generation coming in, right? Like,
it was a good one too. Breesy on the Saints as well. That guy's a monster too.
God,
Yeah.
absolutely. So I mean, we're in a good. I think the NFL's in a good spot as far as that, and tides are shifting a little bit. It's not just all offense. We're seeing in the playoffs, you need a little bit of defense to get there, right? So
yeah.
Great shouts. Only time will tell where these motherfuckers end up. But God damn it, we've brought ourselves right to the doorstep, right to Louisiana, baby, because it's time for the main event to discuss the Super Bowl, the Kansas City Chiefs rematching against the Philadelphia Eagles. God damn, I'm so excited to hop into the discussion of this because there's a lot of different ways we could take this, right? But I think it's only right that we start with the only person that is fully invested in this game, right? The only one that has gonna have all the sweat on their brow for every second of this until it's done. And of course, that's our guy Derrick. So right off the top,
Me.
I
Oh, it's
just
on me
can't
because
wait.
I hate the Chiefs. Sorry,
Lay
sorry.
the land. Let us know how you're feeling about this game, what to look out for, and why the Eagles are going to take it.
Man, yeah. I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I like right now. I think this is the most calm I've been going into the Super Bowl. This is the most calm I've been. I'm anxious for the day to get here, but I'm calm. Like, I mean, we're getting reports today that a lot of guys have like flu-like symptoms and stuff like that. They haven't flown since the beginning of December, bro. Like, they haven't been on a plane. They have literally not traveled to another city on a plane since the beginning of December. So, I'm just assuming they'll be all right. They'll be all right. They'll be ready to go by Saturday. So I'm not worried about them. Just get some water and let them be good.
Mhm.
But I'm excited because, to be honest with you, I think, and this might sound wild to say, I think we would have had a better game. I think the game in itself would have been more appealing had the Ravens or Bills been in the championship outside of, other than the Chiefs. To be honest with you, I
Pure
think
football. Pure football.
I'm
The
talking about
narrative. Yeah,
yeah,
narrative is a whole different thing, but pure football.
yeah,
Yeah, I agree with that.
because if you're being completely unbiased, those are better teams than the Chiefs, and I don't think that I'm not looking past them. I obviously, what they have, who they have on that team, and what they're capable of. But I think when you're talking about matchups and styles, um, this one, this one feels like it's just inevitable. It just feels inevitable, and I like. I'm looking at all the phases because I never like to overlook an opponent, right? But I'm looking at all of these areas on the field, and it's just like, where are they superior? Where are they superior? Where are the Chiefs superior than the Eagles? Where?
Oh.
Because I've been watching both teams this season, and I'm looking at what the Eagles have. The Eagles literally look starving, not hungry. They look like they are starving right now
Mhm.
to get this thing done. And I truly believe that I want to see a trilogy. How about that? We're all film fans in here, right? I want to see a trilogy. I want to see the Eagles win this one, and then I want to see a part 3 because where they're playing this year, they've already said that they're going to be playing on turf. So that means we're not going to be sitting there slipping and sliding all over the game the whole time. And just so Chiefs fans can stop crying, we're like, no one is saying that the Eagles were the only ones slipping and sliding on that field. I literally watched Mahomes slide almost in every
Yeah.
play. So
Nobody should be.
no one should be sliding. Like, that's the point. You really want. I think if you're talking about having the best product on the field, that is something that should not come into play. The only time you really should be sliding is when you're sliding down on the ground.
Right, right.
When you're purposely doing it, you're not
Yep.
sliding because you got mud under your foot. So I think that because we're going to be on the right surface and all that, we're going to get the best of both teams. And the best team on that field is the Eagles. And I say that in an unbiased manner because I literally look to see where the holes are, and I think based on the coordinators, based on the schemes that they've had, our weak link 2 years ago was our defense.
Yeah.
It was Jonathan Gannon. It was our older players.
Right.
We're younger right now, faster, bigger, stronger.
Hungrier.
hungrier. And on top of that, the coordinators know what they're doing. The only thing that I have not enjoyed about this process is the fact that it's legal to interview a candidate that's still playing in the playoffs.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I don't like about it.
Yep.
Like the idea that Jonathan Gannon, my God, the idea that Kellen Moore has been taken, has had to do 2 or 3 interviews over the last couple of weeks is ridiculous. I really
Yeah,
wish the league would stop that.
I'll tell you right now. After you guys win the Super Bowl, he's just gonna walk to the Saints office because he got that job.
Which is fine. 'Cause
I mean,
Jonathan Gannon should have done the same thing.
yeah, right,
Jonathan Gannon should have done the same thing because he wasn't focused on it. He was focused on
I understand.
his his head coach position.
Right.
Kellen Moore is focused on the Super Bowl.
Oh, he is. Oh,
If you're
I
going to
guarantee that.
become the head coach of the Saints, which to be honest, I'm not sure if y'all saw the reports this week, the Saints are in a lot of hot water right now.
Oh yeah.
If that is the decision that he makes, I personally wouldn't agree with it. I wouldn't want to be the one to go into that situation at that point. However, if that's the decision he makes, that's the decision he makes. Whatever, it is what it is.
Yep.
I think it's very telling that every coordinator that Jalen Hurts has had while in the league has gone on to be a head coach the next year or the year or 2 years after.
Well, I will say that the Bills OC Brady backed out of the Saints. He was going to get the job. I think he's won the championship in LSU with Joe Burrow.
Yeah,
which is New Orleans, right? And worked in the Saints facility for 6 years before that. So I mean, I think he was in line. But him backing out, it speaks to the mess that franchise is right now.
Yes.
So
yes. So
sure.
I think that look, it is what it is. I wish him the best, but we'll get to that point when we get to that point.
Get that
The
chip
Eagles
right.
look to be the best team on the field, and that's no slight at the Chiefs. I just know what these guys can do.
Listen, as the team that faces the Chiefs every single year and knows what they're good and best at, right? And obviously the first thing, and I love Mahomes, and I'm not trying to say it's not Mahomes, but you have Andy Reid. That's the tip of the iceberg, right? You start with that. He coaches well. Spagnuolo's a phenomenal coordinator on defense. Obviously, he's his disguise rushes. I mean, he shows a play over and over and over. You think it's still coming from the same place. Boom, he's sending 3 guys from the other side, and you got blitz, right? Like, so
Right,
he's
right.
phenomenal. Don't get me wrong. I know their weaknesses, right? So where it comes to your strengths, like they struggle with the run game on the outside. Okay, well, you guys, that's your bread and butter,
Yeah.
right? Their linebackers all struggle range wise from left to right. That is your guys' bread and butter, right? I mean, the read option is going to destroy Bolton. I mean, I love Bolton, but he's just not. I don't know if he's hurt or still dealing with the elbow or whatever.
Yeah.
But he's not Bolton, right? I mean, he's not what we're used to seeing him be. Obviously, Chris Jones is phenomenal, but you guys are also coaching so well to avoid that best guy and get around to the other ones, right? Kyle Falakis on the outside, phenomenal pass rusher, terrible run stopper, right? So things that you guys just completely excel at. And then we know the Chiefs' offense all year has been horrible. They should have lost 6 games because of how bad their offense was, and special teams or defense bailed them out, right? And obviously the field goal kicker and random field goal kickers too, because Bucker was hurt. They picked up a guy. They could have picked me off the street. I would have hit a 50-yard field goal. Like, whatever. That's just I'm still mad about it. Whatever. So, but I that's like you guys will also take advantage of how bad that offense still is, right? The defense is phenomenal. The DBs are going to be pinned against them the entire time. You don't shy away from man. You know how to mix up zone at the same time. I love your guys' defense and how fast it is and aggressive. And, obviously you had the loss of, was it N'Kobe, right? They got hurt.
Yeah, N'Kobe Dean.
N'Kobe Dean, yeah. And that's a huge loss. But he just seems like linebackers for you guys. You put anyone in, they're ready to go and do something good, right? So, and again, that's where they may target you guys a little bit and try to feed Kelsey a little bit and maybe get Hollywood Brown out in the intermediate a little bit and see what you guys do. But then your safeties come up and just demolish. I mean, so it's like Blankenship and I know Dejan's kind of like a hybrid slot and safety, but you have guys that just make plays, man. They're out there, they do their thing. They're fast, they're strong, they're aggressive on both sides. O line, D line, that's how you win a chip, right?
Yeah.
And the Chiefs O line is kind of awful. Like
Yeah.
Tooney's playing left tackle. That's kind of not good. So
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah.
so you have the right things. The dome's helping all parties, right? Being in a dome, not worrying about the bad turf, not worrying about bad weather. I think it's gonna be a show, but not the show I would have expected if it was Ravens or
Yeah.
Chiefs,
Yeah.
or I'm sorry, Ravens or Bills. Honestly, would have loved to see. Listen, as a Bills fan, I'm sorry we beat you guys, Chris, but I love Lamar. Like I have I have posts from 2017 about if you draft Josh Allen, I might be done watching the Bills and I want Lamar Jackson. Like I love Lamar Jackson. I would take him if Josh weren't our quarterback any day of the week, 10 times, like maybe split based on now, right? And him in the dome. Ooh, oh boy, that would
Crazy.
have been a show.
Been
A
crazy.
show. So yeah. I mean, I got you guys right. That's the question. I got
Mhm.
I got the Eagles taking advantage of those specific areas where they have mismatches, and the coaching is top tier right now. The players are on board. You see it with these teams sometimes, and the Chiefs have been this too, right? But you see it that like you just notice the team's really in sync.
Yes.
It's just that simple almost, right? Like
Yes.
2 years ago, Derrick, you guys weren't really in sync. Maybe it was the lack of speed. Maybe it was the players that are older and then the younger guys not
Yeah.
being able to mold into that. They've kind of retooled and built out a team that's like ready. They're aggressive. They're ready to go. They're fired up. I mean, it's a show.
They're
Like
the most
the Eagles
focused.
are,
They're the most focused I've seen them in years.
yeah, yeah. And
I,
credit to Sirianni, who like we didn't expect him to be able to
oh,
do this.
I said
I,
I said this.
I mean,
I was loud about it. I
yeah.
said this on the
Everybody
show.
was understandably.
I wanted Sirianni gone, right? Because I
Everybody
was
did.
focused on the attention he was bringing onto himself, and
Yep.
it's what seemed to be like messing with plays too much. Since that bye week, my man has just he has locked in, and that's what I'm saying. I think that's a part of it where I'm seeing it. I'm like, there's a different level of focus because I didn't see that from him even a year ago. I saw the aggression and the ability to take risks and stuff like that, but the amount of focus that is there right now, I didn't see this last year. I didn't see it the year before, and there's a different demeanor with that team right now. So that's what I'm talking about. So as loud as I was beginning of the season, like I'm so glad they kept Sirianni and did not listen to the outside noise. I think that's the difference between a championship team and a pretender is like if you're going to allow the outside pressure to make you do certain things that you feel you don't need to do.
It's like
And
the
that's
pressure,
what they did. They honed in and focused on what they felt they needed to do.
right?
That's why they're here right now.
I completely agree, and it's continued credit to Sirianni, right? The
Yes, yes,
pressure made diamonds in this
yes,
situation for me, right?
yes,
Like
yes,
he heard it. It's Philly. The media's they're not easy. The fans are not easy. We know
yeah,
this, right?
yeah.
And he took it by the horns and went with it, right? Obviously, Saquon helps it all. Listen, I mean,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah, it makes things a
yeah,
little easier when your guy can go
yeah.
for 2,000 in a season, right? But and this is what I spoke to earlier when we talked about specific hires or who's going where in the Ben Johnson conversation, right? Like your job, Sirianni, great pay color as well. Like he did it in Chargers, he's done it
Mhm.
in other places. I think he did a little bit with you guys in the beginning. Um, what a man to step down and say, all right, Kellen, you got it, right? Like I'm going to be the leader of this team and get my troops ready. I need you to make these plays and call these guys out and get going, right?
Mhm.
And they did it. So I think they're in a good spot now and they're ready to keep going for sure.
I love that we're all kind of on the same page here. I'm going to be just quickly laying out some matchups I think that are important. Obviously, the first one, Saquon. I think Saquon has a good chance to be the MVP in this game if things go out like we're all talking about that they might go in this game. I think he has the potential to be the biggest game wrecker in this game besides Patrick Mahomes. But that calls up the matchup issue, right? You talked about areas in which the Chiefs are stronger. Let's just face it, right? Regardless of how he played during the regular season, if there's any quarterback I want there under center is Patrick Mahomes, and that's just me
Mhm.
being real.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Matchup wise, I think that means a huge game is going to be needed for Zach Bond and whoever's in that spy position, right?
Mhm.
Because most of the game you're probably going to be playing some variation of zone, and obviously Pat Mahomes is good at dealing with that, right? And good at rolling out in those situations. So how long can you guys hold up in man versus having to play those zone coverages? And if you're in those zones, right, are we going to be able to stop those different rushes out to keep those drives going? I think the key idea for you guys in this matchup is obviously keeping Mahomes off the field, right? The less you have to deal with that time of possession, the easier this game becomes for you guys. I look at this game very similarly to you guys. I think the Eagles are in prime position to win this game. I think they have literally, as you look down the roster, all the different intangibles that you want to point to. But I'm going to be the guy to pick the Chiefs on this show. I think ultimately there's so much riding and so much momentum that's been with this team already. And I think Travis Kelce is in for a huge game. I think the situation, and this is not me, once again, I don't want to shade and point fingers here, but if you guys are going to win this game, Saquon can't do it by himself. And I think there's a lot of questions about Jalen Hurts, regardless of how he's looked and his health coming into this game. I think ultimately, if you guys could keep the ball on your side for longer, you're going to be in the best position. But the stat we talked about last week, right? Worst case scenario, you guys, this is a 1-point game and the Chiefs get the ball back. I know who's winning that scenario, and I'm sorry to admit it. I'm going to be picking the Chiefs here just because of that. I think we're going to end up in a close game, and it's going to come down to those last drives, and there's nobody I trust more than Pat Mahomes in that scenario. Kill me, guys. Kill me now.
Yeah. So, okay. So I'll respond to a couple things you said. The one thing that I don't think is a question mark is Jalen Hurts. Because I think when you're looking at pay attention to how he played 2 years ago in the Super Bowl against this very team. He was slicing and dicing, bro. That was with Miles Sanders in the backfield. And that's also with an older defense on the other side, right? Like, he was killing it. I don't care about the fumble, to be honest with you, because after the fumble, he was absolutely perfect.
Right.
You know, like, he did his part. They didn't lose because of that fumble. I agree with you, though. I do believe that if it's a one possession type game, that you're going to lean toward the Chiefs. I'm not disagreeing with that. I don't think it's a one possession game, bro. And I'm not being biased here. I know it might sound like it, but I saw how the defense that we had 2 years ago against the Chiefs, how they played, right? And how close that game was with that defense. This is a significantly better defense, bro. And I'll be honest with you, I agree that how Mahomes is going to play and all that stuff. I agree that's, it's going to be very interesting. I put it like this. This team is not afraid.
Yeah.
This team is not afraid of who is playing against them. I think that they see what this is and they know what it was, but they know what this is going to be. And this is a team that just feels different. And I'll put it like this. I'm not nervous about the Chiefs, to be completely honest with you. I'm let me ask you guys this, because I've been wondering, I've been thinking about this for like the last week. I haven't talked to anybody about this, and because I wanted to keep it for this. Do you think that the narrative of the Chiefs being helped by the refs, as loud as that has been over the last 2 weeks, do you think that comes into play this game, where you're seeing some calls that they would otherwise get not be called in this game? Do you think that it's actually going to be called down the middle because of that narrative coming out?
I love a good overcorrecting the steering wheel by the referees and officials. That's something you see a lot in MMA, believe it or not. Whenever there's a big early stoppage controversy, then next time you see dudes getting killed out there, right? It's a certain level of responsiveness here. I think they'll be aware of it, but to a certain extent, it's weird to say. I'm just going to be honest here. I don't think that's a trend that's going to stop in this game. I just think that a lot of these scenarios happen, and what is the phrase, right? You'd rather be lucky than good. And I think in all these situations, it's really easy to point to, hey, these guys has gotten lucky in this scenario, but they're fucking good too, right? And that's where the problems lie here. I think that is in play though, right? And obviously you don't want to play to that advantage in general, right? You should be assuming that none of those things are going to be happening. But at the end of the day, I think ultimately it's just really going to be about who's going to be able to stay on and who's going to be able to come off the field, right? I think that's what's going to win this game. And I think, given I'm saying that, you would think I would lean towards the team that actually has a run game, right? The Chiefs' run game has been non-existent for the last 3 weeks, unless we're in the red zone. So it's a weird scenario for me. I will be honest. To quickly rebut what you were saying earlier too, Derrick, just to say my piece on this, I agree with you that Jalen Hurts went crazy in that game, but I think to this day we have not seen that Jalen Hurts from that season. Not just that moment, that season. And you could argue the personnel is better, right? So,
but I disagree with that, because you may not have seen the statistics aspect of it over the last year and a half, but you've seen the amount of detail grow. And honestly, I think the fact that he played his best statistical game in the NFC Championship is something to be afraid of, because the next game
against the worst defense in the NFC playoffs.
Yeah, this man is about to go off, bro.
To answer the ref thing, like, I think, yes, there's a narrative, there's pressure. I think the NFL, specifically the head of officiating, probably is telling the crew, like, you got to try to make it as balanced as possible, right? And there was a quote that came out speaking of the AFC Championship game with the Bills. Sean McDermott basically, it was a misquoted headline, as always, as CSPN loves to do, right? Basically saying, I told my players, don't expect calls. When he was not saying that. He was saying, essentially, if you look at the whole quote, don't put yourself in a position where the refs are going to have to decide a game for you.
Right.
What Derrick's saying, and what the Bills should have done, and what every team that faces the Chiefs should have done, don't get it down to a field goal against the Raiders where they block it, right? Don't get down to a last-minute penalty call on the Chargers where they're about to beat them, and, of course, they give Mahomes the penalty call, right? Dominate. Do the things. Take advantage of the spots we talked about this entire segment, right? Run game. Better mismatches across the board. Dominate them. Don't put it in a. Don't get to the one possession game, because, Derrick, I promise you, if you give Mahomes, I'm with Chris. You give Mahomes that ball with a chance to win or tie, you're losing. There's no questions asked, right?
I don't have any doubts about that.
So your job, I know you agree with it, but, like, your job, and all of our jobs have been, we're the AFC, right? We're the ones that are putting the Chiefs in there every year. Our job is to not give them a chance for the refs to make that decision at the end of the game, right? Like, our fourth and short that was technically not short, but for Josh, we shouldn't be there, right? We were the better team all year. I don't care what nobody says. We beat them, right? In the regular season, we were better. We were technically just one win away, but we gave up our last game of the season, obviously. It's dominate. That's all I'm gonna say. You dominate, you're fine.
But see, that's the thing too. I think, and in respect to both your teams, I've told you both this separately, but I think the only reason why both of your teams didn't make it to the Super Bowl is because you didn't continue to play the way that you guys have been playing all season long. Right. And I think that's the only thing. That's the only reason why I don't think there's any changes that either one of your teams need to make to improve next year. The only thing you have to do is stay consistent.
I think we need to improve our defense. I think
you need
argue a little bit of offensive help, but
there are things you can
general
do.
things,
in terms of adjusting to be better.
I agree. Yeah.
There's nothing you have to do outside of just stay consistent.
Like, you got probably Lamar's best MVP year coming, right? I'm sure they probably already announced it, or the show's on tonight, but whatever. And then Josh is now, the stats weren't as elite as Lamar's, but the best season ever as far as turnovers, controlling the game, and basically Lamar's last year, right? Like,
personnel too.
Took that step forward to be better.
They did exactly what you needed to expect them to get the Super Bowl. Let's put it that
way. I think that's what the Eagles have done.
Right.
As long as they stay within their game plan, they're not losing this game, because you literally have to not play like you literally have to lose your identity to not win the game. And I don't see them doing that. That's why I feel as confident as I do, because when you put that out on tape, look at what's all on their side of the ball. Offensively, they're consistent.
Right.
Defensively, they're consistent. Special teams, they are consistent, right? And if you look at the other team, it's not consistent. The Chiefs are not consistent this year. You know what I'm saying? So, and I'm not saying it as a slight. I do believe that this is just a better team, right? And I know we look at Mahomes and Kelsey and Reed and Worthy, and I know the names pop more, but when I look at the complete team, I just see the Eagles have the better overall roster, coordinators, and head coach right now. Right now, I'm not saying all the time. I'm not saying all the time, but right now, they're the better ones, like all across the board. Yeah, you can say point at specific players and say, Mahomes is Hall of Famer. You're gonna take him, all that. I,
Right.
I agree with you on that. Like I can't argue that. Kelsey
And
is obviously still one of the top tight ends in the league. I get that. But when you're looking at the entire offense, when you're looking at the line, when you're looking at the defensive line and the full defense, it's just I don't see where they don't dominate. I
I think
don't, and I
there's
think that this is the game that Jalen Hurts will quiet. I mean, it's not they're not going to quiet. He's not going to quiet everybody, right? But I think there are going to be more people that say, you know what, we were wrong. They're not going to admit it, but they've already started walking it back since the NFC Championship. Everything they've said over the last 2.5 years, they have walked back over the last 2 weeks.
right.
You know what I'm saying? So that's where I'm sitting here and I'm like, I'm calm because I understand what my team is, right? And I believe that they are the better team. Now we get there Sunday. We'll see what happens, but that's what I believe. Like if you're asking me why, that's the reason why.
One thing, last, and
Mhm.
this would be my last thing, I guess, towards this, right? Is one stat I love, and this is he used to hate it because Josh is always on the other end of it, right? Toxic differential, right? So that I don't know if you guys are familiar with it in whole. So obviously turnovers, like you're always on the plus side or minus side with turnovers, but there's also big plays given up, big plays that you've got, right? Um, the Chiefs are like the worst in the league with toxic differential, like near the worst in the league because of all the turnovers that Mahomes had, the lack of explosive plays, a little bit due to the lack of like per se Rice got hurt and different players weren't playing and DeAndre came late, right? Running game was non-existent. Obviously, Chris, right? Derrick, you guys were explosive, right? You were still, even though AJ had his little moment of getting mad about not getting the deep ball, he still had it. Devonta, same thing, had it. Saquon, obviously the home run bombs, right? And then your turnover differential is phenomenal. So that is my favorite stat. Whoever wins the toxic differential, whoever has the more obviously that's with any case in any game, right? And the Chiefs have just found ways to win it no matter what. So that's your struggles. Where's your balance? You may win it, but you're still going to keep them in it. If you do,
Right.
me and Chris are going to be right, and you're done, right? Like that's take advantage of that toxic differential because I feel like you guys are going to have a lot of plays on the ball and chances to get it, right? So
Yeah.
hopefully you do.
Mhm.
We'll see.
Yeah, man. And I want to make it clear, right? I'm not out
Oh
here
yeah, no,
hoping
no.
Yeah.
the Kansas City
I got
Chiefs win this game. I'm gonna be rooting
right.
for the Eagles. But just something
Right.
about this just doesn't feel right to me. And I think ultimately, um, and I stand by this, right? Regardless of all the injuries they went through, I think as a team, it's a travesty that nobody has poached Spagnolo and their offensive coordinator because this dynasty has been able to live on in
Right.
part because of
Right.
that. And I think, with all due respect, I hate that I'm just countering
Yeah,
everything
yeah.
you say. I just
Hey,
got to be real here. I think that's why they are still ahead in this coordinator battle, just because not only are they at that championship level, but they've been battle tested in these scenarios year
sure.
in, year out. And obviously, the Eagles are exactly there too, right? This is a rematch for a reason. Besides that bounce back year, and for some reason, Tampa always having you guys' number. You guys are battle tested in that way too, right? But I don't know, man. It's so hard to bet against a juggernaut. It reminds me of those years, right? Nobody was going to be um, picking the Giants in that scenario, right? Nobody's going to want to pick against the Chiefs here. And that's not necessarily the only reason why I'm picking them. I just think when it comes to countering the counter, right? The idea of, I know you're going to be doing this, so I'm going to feed you this. And then in reality, I'm really trying to get here. Nobody's better at doing that, in my opinion, than the Chiefs on offense specifically. So I think if they can really find a way, which is good luck, but find a way to keep Saquon under 100, right? We don't need to keep them under 50. We just need to keep them under 100, right? I think they're going to be in a better position than otherwise. But obviously, the main matchup here is that, right? And you got to point towards Saquon being able to win some of those positions. But man, I need to see it. I haven't seen it, right? I haven't seen it. Unless you're Tom Brady, I haven't seen it. And ultimately, I think it's going to be a two-headed effort, right? You need Jalen Hurts and Saquon to do well in this game to get the dub. I don't think that's going to happen.
I'm telling you, I'm willing to put money on it. It will.
Oh yeah.
That's how confident I am in this, because Jalen did it. He's done it, and he did it in NFC Championship. It was very well balanced, and he still got it. I think there's a specific level of hunger and desire there that I'm seeing with this whole team. It's not just like one player, like a few players. It's literally all of them, which is, I've never seen that part before.
Right.
I've never seen that. And the Eagles have the opportunity to do something that I don't think has ever been done before. Stop two different potential three-peats.
Oh yeah.
So we did it a couple years ago in 2017. I believe it will happen again this Sunday.
All right.
Ooh, you heard the man. 2-1. The show is going with the Eagles, baby. I can't wait to see how this game plays out. I think ultimately, if anything, this game's gonna be dramatic, right? Even if y'all cook the Chiefs and are up big early, it's still gonna be dramatic, right? Because then the narrative is gonna shift, right? It's gonna be, can the Chiefs come back in this scenario? So I think this is gonna be high drama no matter what. I think this is not gonna be a boring game. I think whoever wins is gonna be. Yeah, whoever wins is going to be obviously primed for the future, but also just going to be that team that fucking executes in those plays. And I'm just scared of one guy in particular, and that is Chris Jones in this matchup as well. So goddamn, I'm fucking excited for this Super Bowl. I can't wait to see how it all plays out. And I also can't wait to be the casual destroyer, right? Everyone that's coming to my house talking about the fucking commercials, right? I'm gonna just be shitting on people this year because I'm tired of that lifestyle shift where now I gotta entertain my girl's friends, right? Now I gotta, oh yeah, that commercial was fun.
Yeah.
Enjoy this game for what it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be a great game.
Absolutely.
Well, with that all being said, we're all done on this Super Bowl madness extravaganza. Thank you so much for tuning in once again and being a part of what we have going here at OTS. Make sure you're following the brand at OTS Media Co. on all social media platforms. Shout out to the girl dad. Shout out to my guy, Jonathan, for joining us on this one. You made the show 10 times better. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you grab your kids, hide them, because God damn it, the refs is trying everybody out here. We'll see you all next week. Peace.